Everybody, thanks for watching. This is my Shock Trooper build. It's a lightning-based mercenary for PoE2. I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible because I just want to be done with this today. But hopefully you guys can learn something, maybe pause it, and we can go from there. So right off the bat, I don't care too much about. I'm not in mapping yet. I'm in Act 2 Cruel, but this thing has been deleting anything I've thrown it at, even if I'm not paying attention very well. So I think this is going to go really well into the end game, especially once I can get some, actual end game gear. First off, here's my passives tree. The goal here is I wanted a guy who felt more like one of those twin stick shooter types. So basically, that's what I did. I started here at the 10% projectile just because I felt it would be a better benefit to me than a flat bonus. And as I went through, I did pick up this area first and then moved over to mass hysteria and then just kind of worked my way down all the way to the two-handeds. I did not pick the two on the cross guard here, um, but I felt that was a really good strength increase, even with that reduced attack speed, because all I'm really trying to do is slap on as much attack speed and move speed as possible so I can stay mobile while gunning fools down. Um, Down here at the cross, I took right, or left, I guess you'd say, and got some more movement speed if I'm killing. I do a lot of AOE clear. I don't feel like it's too much of a hindrance if I'm focusing on bosses. The next thing you want on this build is all the reload you can get. So this is the next big power jump you're going to have. It makes it feel a lot smoother when you're either just reloading your current magazine or maybe you're swapping. It just feels really good. Next two you'll want to get are these right here because you want shock. Because we do a lot of lightning and because of some of the synergies that come up, you want to be able to get those ailments in there. Um, and I like having a little bit of penetration on there as well. Again, more shock over here that helps with the damage. It might be something that you can go ahead and mix or pull out of your mix rather. And then I came down. This will be about, I want to say, near the end of Act 3 normal, beginning of right near the end there. I was able to start coming down here. And you definitely want these reloads. I think that's about it. Once I got into Cruel, that's when I went ahead. The first thing I did, I want to say in Act 1 Cruel, I added these on. Um, then I went ahead and because I pulled Gemling as my particular ascendancy, that's when I got these stars. I like this because, hey, I got, nice little 20 some odd percent boost or whatever it is. I can't math um, to my damage, and hey, more attributes. And now I am finishing up here at level 59, level 60. I'm going to get leatherbound gauntlets. But again, what you're focusing on is attack speed and movement speed, your reload speed, and then trying to make sure you get as much shock as possible. And here's the reason why. These are all the skills: galvanic shard, shock burst. I'm going to go ahead and go through these. You can pause as you need. I'll go through each of them real quick. Your main sort of gameplay, your rotation, so to speak, you're going to go ahead and mostly be using galvanic shards all the time. Just be spamming, just be spamming. Um, this will apply shock. And then you will consume that shock, or more leverage it because it doesn't go away. You'll leverage that shock with shock burst. This usually you'll keep for like those nasty rares or the bosses. Plasma blast. You don't get this until I want to say level 52. So until that point in time, you probably want to have your voltaic grenades in here. Again, you're trying to apply shock. And in this case, with Load Plasma Blast, it is a great opener for a boss or a nasty group that you know that you're about to run into. Ripwire Ballista, again, going off that whole shock trooper, twin stick shooter type of thing. This is my I use it less as a um, a turret and more of a, mobile healing station. Emergency reload is good if you find yourself slowed or you get a really good shock and you want to just redo your shock burst rounds real quick. It also gives you a little bit of a boost of damage, which is nice. I don't use it nearly as much now that I have Plasma Blast, so this might be something you want to, swap out. This could be a flex skill. Next up, these two I hardly ever use. I had Wind Dancer from start, and then eventually I got Herald of Thunder and Overwhelming Presence. Right now, this isn't even activated. The armor I'm running right now doesn't have Spirit on it, and neither does my amulet. So I'm not finding myself really needing that now. Now, later when I get to those waypoints and start going through those maps, and I get like those big, swarms, those breaches, I probably want to have this available, so that's why I still have it slotted. But by that time, I'll probably have more access to more spirit, including the stuff I'd get at Act 3 from the Bog Witch. Voltaic Mark. This is probably something that could be dropped too. I was originally trying to do something with Cast on Shock. Wasn't really happy with it and didn't feel like it would even get too much better once I got to endgame. Maybe it will now. But, this is definitely another flex a lot. If you find yourself not being able to shock, you can pop it on, folks. I probably haven't used it since about level 45-ish. Definitely not since I got my Plasma Blast. Let's see here. Overwhelming Presence, super nice. Eventually, I'm probably going to be putting like clarity and vitality and stuff like that in here. But right now, this is here to make sure anybody in my presence, I get a whole lot more of that elemental ailment application. Because I rely so much on shock burst rounds for my single target damage, I want to make sure I can apply that shock with my galvanic shards. Otherwise, I will be hosed and will be doing very little amounts of damage. And finally, the one that I'm surprised we didn't hear today was going to be nerfed, Herald of Thunder. Herald of Thunder is great for AoE clear. It helps me wipe maps. I'm looking forward to hitting up some waypoints with this mug because I know I'm going to be deleting stuff in ways that my other tunes couldn't make it. So that being said, here's the actual sockets. If you don't want to get into this part, feel free to dip out. Let's see here. So in here, I have martial tempo, conduction, fork. Fork is another one that you don't get till later on when you get some level 3 support gems. Maybe you can get it earlier. I don't think I've ever actually tried, but this is my AoE clear. Conduction is here to go ahead and apply that shock. 24 more attack speed because, again, I'm trying to get that shock, so that way I can immediately swap to shock burst and just burst them down. Fork makes it feels like there's a an actual limit on how far out the galvanic shards can go. This kind of helps it spread further and spread more evenly besides behind enemies that might be too close and therefore taking that 5 or 6 of your bullets all at once. So definitely recommend fork. Conduction is mandatory. Martial tempo, I like. This could be your flex slot if you want to put something else in there. Shock burst rounds. The big gimmick here is we don't care about the initial attack damage, and that's why it feels like a pea shooter most times. We care about that pulse that comes off once you go ahead and hit somebody that's affected by a lightning ailment. In this case, boom, you are doing 153% of your attack damage, full lightning, does it in a little bit of a pulse. I'm okay with all this. This does a crazy, crazy, crazy amount of damage, and I'm okay with all that. If I could actually select it without messing things up, you'll see that, like damage per second, that is a stupid amount of damage just because between the attack speed and everything else, I am shooting so much. It deletes, folks. It is nasty. I'm sure somebody out there has already figured this out, and I'm not the only one, because if I'm the only one, oh my god, no, not possible. Anyways, fresh clip. I swap a lot between plasma, galvanic, and shock burst. I feel like this adds a lot. It may be the flex slot that you could put some else in there if you want. Until I get some sort of like DPS dummy, or maybe one of these tools comes out that lets me figure, like I keep hearing about a Path of Builder might be coming out this week. Maybe this will prove me wrong. Until then, I'm okay with that. Concentrated effect, I don't care about the area effect damage. I care about the initial. I'm sorry, I don't care about the area of the effect. I care about the damage of the effect. So that's why that's in here. Elemental focus, again, more damage, and I don't care if my shock burst can go ahead and actually do shock, because if I were to dig in here, it will tell you that it cannot do shock. But maybe that's just because I already slotted this elemental focus. Either way, more damage, more of their problems. Plasma blast. This one was hard to get to use. I didn't really understand it. I'll probably go ahead and show it here at the end of this video. You basically swap to it, and then you hold down your button until you get like a little, you'll see like a little ball on the end of your crossbow swell up, and it'll kind of like a flashy blink, and that's when you know to let go. You do it, and you do this huge, massive, look at that, crazy 3,000% damage, pierces everything in front of you. That's all fine and good, but this is great for that initial part of every single boss battle where, they got to freaking post up and then turn on their freaking little bar, and then they'll be like, now I'm going to attack you. And as soon as you see their bar, you just let go of this button that you've been holding the entire time waiting for the opening. On here, I have Hourglass. This one's going to be iffy. It feels like this does stupid amounts of damage. However, it's got that 10 seconds of cooldown. That means, if you have to roll, you're going to get hit by that 10 seconds. It's going to take a while to reload. Um, this will be your flex slot here. Yes, adds a punch of damage. Also, when you're first learning, don't have this slotted. I thought it would be immediately cool because I was only going to use it once in a while. It made it very difficult for me to learn. So yeah, but it's a huge damage increase. Overcharge. I have this on here. Also a flex slot. I feel like there's probably something better I can put in here, but because it shocks so well, especially with that bonus of 30% more chance to shock, and I have all these other shock bonuses, it makes sense to, because all ailments are based off that initial hit. If I'm hitting them with a big hit, I want that shock to be big too, especially because, I can then immediately swap to my shock burst rounds. And then finally over here, I have Scattershot. Scattershot turns my one laser, instead of splitting it like a three-way, it makes it a burst of 3 shots. So on some of these bosses that, take a time, a little bit of time where you can go ahead and spend, a second, maybe a second and a half, just unleashing 3 massive blasts, it's going to make a difference. Especially like I totally wasted the hell out of the Boneyard bosses just because that thing was huge and it takes a minute to go ahead and get to you. And while I'm charging, because I have movement speed, I'm moving faster. So, definitely recommend this. That 20%, I'm happy dealing 20% damage if that means I deal it, 2 more times. Ripwire Ballista, again, I don't care about pinning. There's probably maybe some sort of mechanic I could go ahead and leverage. I don't care. I've got Fawn of Mana, Fawn of Blood, Fawn of Rage. Fawn of Blood was usually my most helpful one because I don't reload a whole lot, so my mana's not really hurting, but it felt good to have in there when I was really itty-bitty and had to reload a whole lot. Font of Rage. This makes the Ballista a game changer because that little bonus there, for every little bit of rage that you get, it goes ahead and adds 1% more attack damage. And I think that's calculated at the end. Like it's a full, multiplier there where, it's not like, oh, hey, I'm only, boosting this part. It's huge. So My best and most favorite technique, especially on some of these bosses, pop out the ballista, swap to plasma blast, immediately start charging. By the time they go ahead and go to shoot at me, I've got 10, 15, sometimes even a full bar of rage. Especially some of these that have phases. Go ahead and be able to delete them almost entirely with that first shock burst hit. I'm okay with this. Emergency reload. I had this back when I was, before I had the Plasma Blast, I was running Voltaic. I didn't have a whole lot of reload. This is why this is here. It does give a bonus to the damage, but again, I'm not. Since I went ahead and swapped over to Plasma Blast because I delete enemies so quickly, it's not a big deal to me. Before, what I would do is once I shock the enemy, I would go ahead and shock burst rounds. Once I look, I'm watching my little ammo count. Once it gets down to 0, I just pop the reload and, keep holding down the fire button. That's what we do. But uh, up to you. Definitely, this whole skill is a flex slot. Put something else in there. Voltaic Mark, another one that I was trying to use earlier on in the character. I may still want it for like later bosses when I start doing waypoints on those maps. I I was trying to do a thing with cast on shock. Of course, everybody else besides me knows that cast on shock sucks. And then I was like, okay, what I do like Voltaic Mark. I felt like, hey, I could add more shock. Maybe be useful against if I come against any mobs that have a lot of shock or lightning resistance. That's why this is here. Definitely a flex slot. Wind Dancer. I used this when I was starting, I think this was the first thing I used my spirit gem on. I don't think I've turned it on in 20, 30 levels now. Definitely useful before you get a lot of, regular evasion or movement speed. Um, I have blind, pin, and unbreakable on here. I'm not quite sure if unbreakable works the entire time that you have this, equipped and available, or only when you try to fart blast them away from you. Eventually, once I get back to having a lot of spirit, which, now looking at, I'm 59, I don't think I've had any of that spirit increasing gear since about level 45 maybe. So this has been stale for a while. You might want it if you're not picking quite the same things as me, or if you want to slide in a few more uniques. I'm okay not having it, but I would like to have it later, especially once I do waypoints, just because you know how some of those freaking swarms are, especially breaches. Overwhelming presence. This is where I'm going to put the clarity and vitality and such, but mostly this is here so that way I get a better chance to hit all these folks with shock so then I can hit them with the shock burst. Maybe you want it, maybe you don't. I recommend it. Um, Again, I need to stress right here, especially when you don't have very good weapons, you're going to want to make sure that you apply shock as evenly and as often as you can. Um, I'm higher level now. I'll go over my equipment here in a bit. I've got enough stuff to where it's not a big issue, but you definitely want to make sure it becomes an issue because then this whole build's not going to work and you're going to be like, why is my why is my assault rifle doing pea shooter damage and your shock burst isn't, little blast isn't going off, and that's the reason why. Finally, Herald of Thunder. This thing, I can't believe it's not nerfed yet, and they didn't talk about it being nerfed. It's probably going to be. I can't see how else not. This thing does stupid amounts of damage between Herald of Thunder and my initial, galvanic shards. You will delete the entire map, and anything else that's left is probably something that you're going to need to burst down anyways, and we'll have shock on it, so you hit it with a shock burst, it's down, you move to the next, you swap back to your galvanize, and you're back blasting fools. Coursing current, again, I want to make sure that like I want to shock as many people as possible. You could probably put one of those elemental, focus things in here or whatever. Magnified effect. I like the idea of them bursts hitting more people. This is probably like a necessary one. And innervate. I like doing more damage. I don't know if this is like before, during, or after. I don't know where this comes in the actual electrocution phase. But come on, more damage is more damage. And once again, this is a very basic build. I am on console, as you can tell. I'm on PS5 for whatever reason. I can get anybody to respond to any of my freaking requests for trades, and when they finally do, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's not 5x, that's 40x." But no, I ain't got time for that. Nobody's got time for that. Most important things out of your build. Please remember this. If there's anything else, number one, try to get as many projectile skills as possible. That's about, we'll call that number 3 on the list. Number 2 on the list, you want to make sure that you have increased physical damage on your weapon. If you notice, I have both increased physical damage and then adds. Those are technically 2 different things, but this bumps me up to 59 to 81 on a weapon I normally wouldn't even touch because I don't need the extra bolt, and I think that's like a 5 or 10% damage decrease compared to the other weapons near it. But having that projectile skills, because of the way this build is designed to, come in, hit fast, hit hard, go to the next group, the actual shock trooper type thing. This is what you want. I had ones with lightning damage, all that other stuff, because of how these math equations work with converting physical damage, blah, blah, blah. Just add the physical damage. Those are your top 2. Increase physical damage, and then having an adds 9 to 14 physical damage, really nice. And that's it, I think. Everything else is what you can fit, what you can afford, what you can craft. I do have this Midnight Braid Rawhide that I think I've had. It was like the first unique that dropped here. I needed it way back when because the 50% of damage taken recouped as mana, and that was nice because I was reloading so often. Whatever. I don't even know if it exists, to me really. I don't know if I'm using that at all. Eventually, I'm going to have an armor only gauntlet here to capitalize on that one node that you get like 1 or 2 evasion for every armor, or whatever it was. I'll look at it here again in a second. And and this is the other thing you want. You need increased movement speed on your boots. In fact, I would go ahead and say you would need that before you even need like a good weapon, just because as you are moving, as you are attacking, you're slow. And I'll back out here. Let's go ahead and go somewhere real quick, since I feel like I gotta prove myself to strangers who probably aren't even gonna see this. Again, I am just farting around. I'm not really over leveled. This is a level 56 area on Cruel. And like you can tell I'm on consoles because it's going to take forever to load. But yeah, the first thing I do is I go ahead and I check my Elon Maps tab. No, I'm kidding. I just make sure I got my shards out, and these guys are blue, regenerating life, and I'm like, I don't care, give me your crap. If you see like a little weird fuzzy smoky thing, that is the presence on there. My overwhelming presence, or whatever it's called, that's the one that makes it easier to shock them. Oh, I was pointing at the wrong one. And this is all you do. As long as you make sure that you're hitting X to, again, like you're playing like another video game. Make sure you reload between every encounter. Let me find another one of them tougher guys. You see how? Wake up. There it is. You see that little 20%? on there, that's how you know that they are shocked. If they are a rare, if they're a boss, if they're a tough blue, as soon as you see that 20%, that means they are shocked. Immediately swap over to your shock burst rounds and just delete. Because otherwise, this is what you do. Look at this. This does no damage. Look at it. And that's it. Now let me show you, since I'm already here, since you're probably still watching, this is how this works with the plasma shot. I go ahead, let me point to the side for it. You see how I had that little shock? Now, when I let go, 1, 2, 3. But the entire time that I am firing, I'm going much slower than my normal speed. But because my initial speed is so high, I'm still able to reposition. And that is super important when you're playing, this Merc playstyle. You've got enough, armor and evasion to go ahead and, like, be fair to Midland. But you need to be playing this like you are, like your marksman type role in combat. You need to go ahead and understand your positioning. You need to make sure that I roll a whole lot. I probably want some of those rolling ones, but you want to make sure you don't give them a chance to get close to you. If you do, pop out your little buddy. Look at that, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna shoot your toy," and then it's like, "Okay, you still got deleted in the face." And that's basically it. I was hoping to find a boss or a yellow. I know there's two guys in here. I probably went the wrong way and I dodged incorrectly back there. I'm not even picking up any loot. Where am I? Isn't this the one? Oh, here we go. So here, I guess, is a good example. I come in, I know dudes are here. I pop out my bro. He already dropped down, so I'm not going to care. As soon as I go ahead and see that shock on there, why won't you let me shock you? Let me shock you. You are a bad, bad person. Stop it. Let me shock you. Alright, well, oh, there we go. And then that's it. If that would have shocked sooner, then I'd be okay. But now I could go ahead, I could charge up, wait for this nerd to drop down, and be like, pew, 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 and then that's it. I mean, like, you can't beat that. Well, I mean, I know you can because I've seen people do weird stuff with, like, sorcerers and rangers where they're just like, behold, shock damage. And I'm like, well, I've got a gun, so F you. And, yeah, that's basically it. It's a cheap build because, again, I'm not needing a specific unique. Only thing I really need is that move speed. Definitely physical damage. Just load up all the physical damage you possibly can on your crossbow. And then, throw in some projectile skills. It's all you really need, and you'll be able to, like, cook fools without even trying very hard. So anyway, sorry, that was supposed to be a very fast one again, but I guess I like talking about this game. Um, Again, hopefully this makes sense. I was told today about or told the other day about a website I can go to make builds. Maybe I'll do that next. If you guys want it, go ahead and post below. Anyways, thanks for watching.